The Samuel Proctor Oral History program recently put on a virtual program called An Evening with John Doe. Dr. John Doe is an 84-year-old civil rights leader from Florida, and the event was held in commemoration of his receiving an honorary doctorate of humane letters from the University of Florida. Dr. Doe looks like someone's kind grandfather. He lit up my computer screen when he smiled and cracked some, actually funny, jokes. But beneath this exterior is a spirited and tenacious man who continues to advocate for Black liberation to this day. Dr. Doe represents the truth about the civil rights movement in Florida. Not only did it exist, but it never ended. Many non-Black Floridians have the idea that the civil rights movement never quite made it to Florida. Personally, I was never taught about the Tallahassee bus boycott and Martin Luther King's weigh-in at St. Augustine beaches. Even UF's history is often left unspoken. However, this is starting to change. For example, more than 7,000 students have signed a petition to rename UF buildings that glorify racists, such as the Reitz Union. This transpires concurrently with UF's recent promise to remove monuments and rename buildings that honor the Confederacy. Yet I wonder how the university should react if the enemy to racial justice being honored, in this case, comes from within. In a remarkable 2014 interview with the Samuel Proctor Oral History program, Dan Harmling, who was a student activist in the 1960s, explains how then UF President J. Wayne Reitz's administration terrorized gay faculty and students as part of John's committee and showed disdain for the civil rights movement, forcing Black student activists to drop out. The first building on UF's campus that most prospective students step foot in is our Reitz Union, whose name for many conjures memories of terror and pain. Is this truly the legacy UF wants to champion? Or should we honor the Harmlings and the Does? The next disservice Florida civil rights history education has done to its students is by referring to the civil rights movement as a closed chapter, separating the current Black Lives Matter movement from a century of civil disobedience. At An Evening with John Doe, this is proven far from true. Dr. Doe himself remains active in the movement, even at 84. He called attention to the prison industrial complex and prison labor, something that might not have been addressed by UF if not for protests. This is not the first time he has spoken at a UF function. Nearly a decade ago, he and his wife held a discussion with hundreds of onlookers at Pugh Hall about the same issues we still face today. Dr. Doe represents the intersection of the civil rights movement of the 1960s and the movement occurring today, revealing that the fight never ended. One last lesson we can learn from Dr. Doe: I have seen a few posts going around saying we are not our grandparents, meaning that today's activists will not hesitate to fight, sometimes physically, to protect Black people and communities. But here's the thing. Dr. Doe, who is most certainly a grandfather, didn't quite subscribe to nonviolence either. He believed that nonviolence was a means, not a way of life. Yes, we have other examples of this from history, Malcolm X for one. And even Martin Luther King said he did not want to become a martyr. But this idea of nonviolence as just a means pervaded the civil rights movement of the 1960s. They were not afraid or hesitant to protect their families and communities. We owe it to our elders to respect their legacies and continue to agitate for justice along with them. Student activists fought to increase Black enrollment at UF decades ago. Today, we have an embarrassing F rating for diversity and criminally defunded minority student groups. Our African American Studies program is so underfunded that they can't even hire faculty. We ask if students should be required to take classes like race and racism, when we, as students, should be clamoring to educate ourselves regardless of university policy. This is how we stop failing our elders. We take the front seat and search for answers ourselves. If you are not quite sure what information is out there, one place you can start is the UF Digital Collections Library. In your browser, type in ufdc.ufl.edu/ORAL. Then type into search University of Florida. Discover for yourself.